Say hi, Mercury. Say hello. You're deaf. Okay. Anyway, not talking about the cat. Well, so after an inspection, found out this top wasn't even on here. It was just sitting on there. And somebody pilfered the starter solenoid off of it, so I had to go rob a solenoid off of another motor and learn something, that this is like 1961 and 62 only, this starter and this apparatus this way, because 63 and 4 are different. Starter solenoid is down here on the bottom of the starter. It's a bigger starter. So they must have found out that this wasn't cutting the mustard, and this starter is junk. I tried and tried and tried to get it to go, and it will spin kind of slow like. So the brushes are either stuck or junk, which is probably a little bit of both. Another inspection piece on this thing too was because I was going to try to see if I could make it run. I have turned it over by hand and I can feel compression in all 6 cylinders. So I'm thinking the power head could be saved. So that's what's going to happen here. However, it's a pile of components. I saw the coil wire. One of the coil wires is like got the head tore off of it, and I don't even know what that is. Could be stuck up inside here, but that's been duct tape fixed. Yeah, to go do that, kind of. So we're just not, it's not going to run. Also, these rectifiers too, I noticed that was changed in 63. So that went more to a square one. And then later it went to an itty bitty guy. And then in the latest models, like in the 70s, it's just a little teeny guy and they fail continuously. I don't know how many dozens of those I fixed. So what I see here right now is a good set of plug wires, probably a distributor cap, and I'm quite sure that this distributor belt might not be savable. So I don't think we're going to care. We really don't care about this anyway, because what we care about is this to be super clean inside here, and it's been plugged its whole life. So we're going to figure it's not rusty in here, because we have to have a cable go through that. I'll clean that. I've got a tool that I made that goes through and hones those out and makes them perfect and clean, and I put grease in them and get them all pretty. But we need this midsection for the project. So that's what we're going to do. And I'm not sure that I'm going to be keeping this stainless if it's good enough for what I want, because it's got to be, and it looks pretty damn good, really. It's got a few little scuffs, but this has a little ding in it, and I have one that's better, so I'll use the better cover for this. Right there's the ding. I can fix that super freaking fast and easy too. That's nothing to that. So anyway, I need the mid. I need the power head off of here. So how you do that is you take that off, and then there's nuts up underneath there, and there's studs that go up into the block. There's like 3 here, and then 1 up there in the front, and same thing on the other side. So I'll be taking that apart. We'll be pulling the power head off of this guy, and dissecting it, because there's just, I can't go any further. I need to put the starter solenoid back on the motor I stole it from, which is a good 800. I think it's a 1961-ish. Could be a 700. I'm not sure. I didn't look it up. I thought it was a 700, but I thought I looked up the numbers and found out it was an 800. It's just got the wrong top on it, for what, in my opinion. So anyway, we're done with all this for now. It's pretty much scrap this guy out and get the components I need, and move on to bigger and better Frankenmerc type things. I am going to put this whole thing together. I am going to, from the gear case all the way up, and we're going to mock it all up and put it together with just enough bolts in it to secure everything and make sure everything functions as it should. and whatever we need to replace will replace. Then we're going to tear it completely down again, and the parts go to get prepped and painted, and then goes back together again. And we got to adapt, take these shocks off, and adapt power trim cylinders to it, which takes a special bushing, which is going to come from another donor motor, which we'll get to that shortly. So I'll be back. Now we're back at this fun task of popping this 850 power head. Hi, Mercury. Say hi. Okay. She's going to her rightful chair, and she's going to watch and supervise. All right, so this is really a bear cat to crack these loose. Sometimes they really are stuck. I kept everything with it, the wiring harness, coils, the whole works, and I'll just pack it away for another day. And if I need something off the block, I'll take it. A little disappointed here because I should have finished taking this off. I forgot about it. Oops, I got it loose and then I never took it off, and so now I have a two-piece wire. But I usually replace these ground wires anyway. You can see that down there. I always put a new one on there because the wire inside here usually is like that anyway. So we're not out anything. So that's pretty much the only oops. And as you can see, I am the epitome of sketchy. Hey, it works. And I was out of room, and all the welding equipment's over here because I've got other things that have to be welded, like gear case stuff. And so I need that stall for doing that stuff. And this thing had to get off of here to get kicked out the door. And because this boat is in my way. So anyway, so this power head is removed, and as you can see, there's a lot of stuff in the bottom like that. That would be rodent residue. I think we're going to be vacuuming that out before we go any further. The gasket seemed like it stayed in here, so I have new gaskets for these. So I'm not too concerned about that. Plus I clean everything. Well, this is all getting painted, so it's all going to be new gasket and painted and cleaned and steam cleaned and all that fun stuff. And I am really not sure what that is. That's other rodentia. So everything's cleared. I will tell you, if you're going to pull a power head like this, the coils, you just pretty much have to take the coils out. You take the wiring harness out the hole first. Then you take the coils out. And then you can get the bracket out after the fact, because you're going to want it, that comes out anyway. But you could leave it in here too, for that matter. I took it out because I didn't want it in here. And the fuel system, I unbolted everything up here where the fuel system goes and kept the line with it, which is this main feed line right here. So all this is going to stay here except that. Ew, gross. I know what that was. And I just scratched my head. Yeah, usually, now another thing I'm going to tell you too is all these water jacket bolts, you got to lube them up really well, and some heat is usually a good plan, because otherwise you're just going to snap these things off in here. And never ever try to take these out unless you got a bad gasket. You're going to end up, almost all of them are frozen in here and they snap off. I've never had any luck with being able to remove these on Mercury's. They just so seared in there. Yeah, you'd think it would be easy because there's a nut on the back side. Guess what? It cruds up in here before it even gets to the nut. Then it snaps off inside of here about halfway through, so you can't get the nut out anyway. So you're screwed. So, hope and pray you never have a water jacket gasket issue. I have only seen it a couple of times in my career, so this is ready to go. I'm going to take and loosen this up from the boat and kind of tip it off to one side so it can clear the long studs. Remember, when you go to pull the power head, there's 8 bolts. One up here, one here, and here, and here. And this one you got to do with the wrench. This one you loosen with the box end wrench, but then flip it over and use the open end, because otherwise you'll never get the box end out. Same thing goes for this. There's very little room for the nut to come off even, so you have to use a open end wrench. So, kind of a little tech tips of the day. Like I said, my main goal was to save this part of the motor, because it's literally flawless, except that boo-boo. And I will be grinding and welding that and rebuilding that. So, but other than that, and then I've got to adapt power trim cylinders to this, which is a bit of work because these were never made for that. So that's the next thing. I'll take the stainless off before I paint it. Obviously, this will get painted separate. Then the midsection will be painted. Shocks deleted. And then I need to check with Tony on, I think he wants me to paint the trim cylinders white as well, instead of black. So, that's that. So, there you go. Power head pulled. 1 down, 2 to go. Actually, kinda. Well, there's that one. And that goes completely to pieces, same as this one, because I need the power head from that one for that one. And then there's this that has to be taken apart because I need that stand, and it's coming apart because the gear case is going on a different motor. And then that gear case is going to come into play really soon, because that's going to be part of that. I know, it's a late model gear case. Why are you doing that? It doesn't fit. It won't work. Want to bet? Done it before, and it's more aquadynamic and doesn't blow out as good as, well, actually does quite a bit better than the originals. That's why it was redesigned, so it works better. So all this is coming up very soon. Maybe even in some of these videos you'll see a lot of this coming together. So for right now, the only thing I'm really concerned about is finishing this up and kicking this boat outside, because we're done with the workboat. So I'll be back. So here's another little life hack for you. For years I was just hated storing these, because they, you know, they'd sit on these long bolts, you know, and they'd be all over the place and falling over and lean them against crap. And then I finally dawned on me that I could drill a couple of holes, pound a couple of 2x. Well, in this case I just have that laying around here, but you can use 2x4s, or you can use, you know, if you really want to go all industrial, you can go to 4x4s. But this does a really good job. Allows it to sit on the floor. It clears these bolts beautifully, as you can see. And so they don't get damaged, because these always got bunged up and nasty, and then you had to recut the threads, and it just sucked. So I just wanted to take a minute to show you how I store these power heads. So there's the motor on the stand, and before anybody goes nuts over the fact of how I pulled this power head off with the, you know, the straps and whatever else there, well, why didn't you use a lifting eye? Well, guess what, Haas? This is pre-lifting eye. Now, there's a couple things you can do. Number one, you can make yourself a plate that bolts in here, which is what the factory had, with a welded eye on it. You can make that, or you can take the nut off and you can screw on a lifting eye, which is another way of doing it, which I absolutely hate doing that, because I don't like to disturb that nut. It's set, it's happy, let's not piss it off. It's torqued properly. So there's a couple things you can do. Or if you really are in a bind This does work, and I did it when I was a kid. Actually, I used a puller. I bolted my puller on here and then pulled from that. So that does work, but you're probably going to bend up your bolts, or these are always rusty and all that crap. So as far as that goes, but this thing is super stable now. It doesn't wiggle around or doesn't do nothing. You can put a floor jack under it or whatever you want. You can pick it up, you can move it, store it. It's a great way to store power heads. Just saying, that's the hack of the week right there. When you're working with this old stuff. Actually, any inline 6 Merc is going to be the same type of footprint, and so that's just an easy way to take care of that. I fumbled with these things for years before I thought it up one day. So there's that. So I'm going to throw this in here just because I can. And we're back again. This is take 3, by the way. Okay, gonna point out some things pretty quickly here. One is this screw, and it had so much mouse residue on it, it was rusted completely over. Vice Grips is probably gonna have to try to take this out. If it snaps off, you're gonna have a bad day, because that's what holds this pan to the bottom piece. And then you'll have to pull out the shift shaft, take this loose, and pull that out of here to get everything to come apart the way it's supposed to come apart. There's actually a gasket underneath that too, which is, you can see right there. But what I wanted to point out, as good as I can point it out, is that's the hole for the water that goes out. And I don't know if you can see that. I have the light just right on the last video where you can see, and not the big hole, the little guy, and that is completely plugged. Now generally I drill those out and make them slightly bigger, and there's a purpose for that, because I like to have a better, stronger water tail that shoots further. Some people say, oh, a smaller one will make it spray further. Yeah, opinions vary, but I've done enough of these where that's what I do. I also wanted to point out that there's no tuner. The exhaust comes out of the power head and it dumps right directly into this chamber, and some of it gets routed through here, which comes out here, and yeah, right there. So for the purpose of cooling things down, and so this doesn't get super steamy hot. It's still going to get steamy hot. Most outboards will do that. That don't have thermostats. These are pre-thermostat motors. Now the other thing that kind of set me back a little bit, but I have one of these in the other shop for doing gear cases, but I needed one over here for final assembly, for welding purposes. This is my temporary welding bench. I have a huge welding bench for real big projects. This thing had all kinds of, that's taken some serious abuse. It needed some repair. But this is cool, because I designed this so that it has 2 bolt holes. So you can switch the bolt holes up like this, and this thing flops down for ease of storage. There's some other things I'm going to be doing to this. One, rounding off that corner because I cut myself enough. Why have it be more? The other thing is I want to sand and paint this and just buzz the rust off and put some Rust-Oleum on it, because I am going to pad this on this side and on the insides as well. So when I put a freshly painted something on here to put it back together, I'm not going to skin it all up. So it's more of an assembly tool, but it's also a work tool, which I'm going to talk later about this gear case and why I'm using it for the Frankenmerc, and the modifications that need to be made to be able to use the newer style gear case. There's a purpose behind all this insanity with using this gear case. So some people will just go, I don't know why the hell you're doing that. It doesn't work. It won't fit. Well, I hate to break it to you, Hoss, but it fits. A few things you got to do to make it work, but there's a purpose behind why I want to use this. I'm not going to get into it in this video because this segment's getting way too long anyway. And This midsection is actually going to go out to get pressure washed, cleaned, and pressure washed before I take it. Well, I might take this pan off and wash that separate from the midsection, because the midsection has to get sandblasted. It's just too nasty. And it needs some welding too. There's a chunk knocked out of it right here that's going to have to be welded back up. And I suppose you could make that with body plastic if you wanted to, but it'll probably snap off at some point, so why just not do it right? So we're going to talk about this later, probably on the next video, when I disassemble that motor there. And you can see that all the welders are scattered all over, and yes, I vacuum my floor. I know somebody's probably going to give me crap about it, but hey, if you want a clean shop, a shop vac, vacuum your floor. If you're going to push a broom like I did for decades, it just moves the dust around. I'm going to try to clean up the Evinrude spewage, because that's all from OMC gear cases. They leak all over hell. I have another project there. Oh, the other side welding project is these tuner pipes for a 600 Polaris Centurion for a buddy of mine, and I promised him years ago I'd do stuff and rebuild them because they're all buggered up, and weld some holes shut that need welding, and it's a long story. We'll probably get into that when I start talking about snowmobile things, and his sled. I'll probably do something on my buddy's sled. Harold's a good guy. He's a goofball. But the main thing I wanted to showcase here was what's going on with that and where I'm at with that. The gear case that is being used on the Frankenmerc, and stay tuned, because we're gonna take that power head off and rip that thing all apart and save the necessary components. And so at that point in time, I will post a video of that disassembly. You already saw the 850 come apart. Well, it's time for the Merc 1000 to come apart, because we need pieces and parts off of that guy. Yeah, you're going to find this interesting, and you're going to ask yourself, why? Why? Because it's a Frankenmerc. Duh. Frankenstein. Lots of parts from lots of motors, and it terrorizes the neighborhood. It's what I do. I'll be back. So I'm steam cleaning these hubs, and was spinning them, and this one spins really good. Don't feel any vibration in my feet. It spins steady, not super fast. It's steady like good grease bearing should. And then I did this one. And the whole trailer's shaking. Yeah, I think we're gonna look into that. And then we gotta wash these. And I can't hold on to everything. Well, I usually do most of the blasting here myself. With my equipment, it takes longer. I use sand, but this was super rusty, so I sent it off to be shot blasted, and I'm calling it that, but it's a metal media blaster is what it is. Okay, so and it came out remarkable. Looks beautiful. Yeah, it's just a beautiful profile. I'll DA that down, and she'll be going in the paint really soon. Sent all the inner spring bracket components with it too, and my spacer bars and step pad, and the tongue. If you remember how nasty that tongue was, go back. I have a video. Yeah, and they even reblasted it, because I pointed out some spots I missed, and they were so cool, and reblasted it. The best part is, for my customer, these guys did it at less than half of what I would charge my customer. So I feel good that I saved him money. And I'm gonna do this myself. I might take it back up there. It's really gonna not cost me much. I'm not sure what I'm doing with this yet. But I am gonna be sandblasting all these small pieces because those got to get painted too. I'll explain all that later. But I am so grateful that I put multiple coats over that decal. I've got like 3 or 4 coats of masking tape and like 3 coats of duct tape, and you can see it tore up the ends, and I told them to stay as far away from it as possible, and they were really cool, and they did. And yeah, so very happy with the outcome of the trailer. So that's going to end all this, because the next time we talk about the trailer, it's going to be because parts are hanging in the paint booth and they're being painted, and we'll be starting on that very soon, because I like to get these in paint within 24 hours from when I get them back from blasting. So, but I have some other things I got to do yet related to that. You're stealing the show, you realize that. Have some other things I want to do with these too. The tongue's got to be DA'd, the trailer frame's got to be DA'd around the outside so it's as smooth as possible. These parts I will probably not do anything with. I will probably just send them straight into paint, because mostly they're hidden anyway. So you couple coats of epoxy primer, it'll hide the blast stuff. The biggest thing is, so I want to get the axle in right away and get some paint on that, because that's going to go black, and all the rest of the colors are white or blue. So this one will probably be the first part that goes in the paint booth, because that's just going to get shot just the way it sits, and it is what it is. I'll retape the end of the hub assembly, but that's just going to get painted just the way it is, and that'll be the first part that's going to get kicked out of the booth. So that, yeah, I don't know, it's tomorrow's project. So this is going to end the trailer portion of this dog and pony show, or begin another one. I'm not sure where this is going to actually end up to be. So, but I'm really happy with the blast work. People in Dodge Center did a remarkable job. Very happy with Samson. I'll be back.